they crossed an ocean. Not as travelers, not as conquerors, but in chains. And among those who arrived in America centuries ago were people who carried something no chain could completely take away: their faith. So, who really brought Islam to America? Was it modern immigrants? Was it famous Muslim leaders like Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali? Or had Islam already reached American soil hundreds of years earlier? The answer takes us into one of the most painful and forgotten chapters of American history. The story begins in West Africa. During the centuries of the transatlantic slave trade, millions of Africans were captured and forcibly transported to the Americas. Among them were Muslims from regions that are today Senegal, Gambia, Guinea, Mali, and parts of Nigeria. These were not people without education or civilization. Many came from established Muslim societies. Some had studied the Qur'an, some could read and write Arabic, some had studied Islamic law, mathematics, history, and theology. Some were teachers, some were merchants, some came from respected families. But suddenly, their lives were destroyed. They were captured, separated from their families, sold to slave traders, and forced onto ships crossing the Atlantic. The journey became known as the Middle Passage. Conditions were horrific. People were packed into confined spaces. Disease spread quickly. Food and water were limited. Thousands died before reaching the other side. Among those who survived were Muslims, carrying a faith that had already been part of their lives for generations. When they arrived in America, slavery attempted to erase almost everything about them. Their names could be changed, their languages could be taken away, their families could be separated, their religious practices could be restricted. But some refused to forget. Some continued praying whenever they could, some fasted, some quietly recited verses of the Qur'an, and some left behind extraordinary written evidence. One of the most remarkable examples was Omar ibn Said. Born in West Africa around 1770, Omar was a highly educated Muslim. He studied the Qur'an and Islamic sciences, but in 1807, his life changed forever. He was captured and brought to America as an enslaved man. Yet, he retained something incredibly powerful. He could write, and he wrote in Arabic. In 1831, he produced an autobiography describing parts of his life. It became one of the most important surviving documents written in Arabic by an enslaved Muslim in the United States. Think about that. A man who had been stripped of his freedom was still able to leave behind his own voice, his own language, and his own memory. Another important figure was Ayuba Suleiman Diallo. Born in West Africa into a Muslim family, Ayuba received an Islamic education. He was eventually captured and transported to America. His intelligence and literacy became part of a larger historical record, showing that many enslaved Africans came from educated and sophisticated societies. The stories of Omar ibn Said and Ayuba reveal something that was nearly erased from popular history. Muslims were already present in America during the era of slavery, but their story did not end there. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Muslim immigrants began arriving in America from the Middle East, the Balkans, and other regions. Communities slowly formed, families settled, prayer spaces appeared, and eventually, mosques were established. One important example is the Mother Mosque of America in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Completed in 1934, it became a lasting symbol of an organized Muslim community in the United States. But another transformation was taking place. During the 20th century, Islam became increasingly visible among African Americans. The Nation of Islam attracted followers by emphasizing discipline, dignity, self-respect, and resistance to racial oppression. Then came Malcolm X. His powerful speeches made him one of the most influential figures of the civil rights era. But his pilgrimage to Mecca transformed his understanding of Islam. There, he encountered Muslims of different races and nationalities praying together: black, white, Arab, Asian, African. His experience changed his perspective on race and brotherhood, and he returned with a broader understanding of Islam. Then came Muhammad Ali. The world watched as one of America's greatest athletes openly embraced his Muslim identity. Ali became a global symbol of confidence, faith, and resistance. After changes to American immigration law in 1965, Muslim immigration increased significantly. People arrived from Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Egypt, Iran, Turkey, and many other countries. New mosques appeared. Islamic schools and organizations grew. Muslim communities became part of cities and towns throughout America. Today, American Muslims come from almost every ethnic and cultural background imaginable. But when we return to the original question, who first brought Islam to America? The strongest documented evidence points to enslaved West African Muslims as the earliest substantial and clearly documented Muslim presence in what became the United States. They did not arrive with armies. They did not arrive with political power. They arrived in chains. And yet, they carried their faith with them.
Some prayed, some remembered Quranic verses, some wrote in Arabic, some preserved their identity against overwhelming pressure. Their story reminds us that history is not always preserved by those who hold power. Sometimes it survives in a handwritten manuscript, a forgotten name, a prayer whispered in silence, a few pages written by someone the world tried to silence. Islam in America did not simply appear in modern times. Its history reaches back centuries. And perhaps the most powerful part of that history is this. The first Muslims who became part of America's story were not powerful men arriving as conquerors. They were ordinary human beings facing extraordinary suffering. Yet, even when almost everything was taken from them, their faith was not completely erased, and centuries later, their voices are still speaking.